Shazam: Fury of the Gods premiered at the box office on the 17th of March 2023. To say that the reception has been underwhelming would be an understatement. The original Shazam, starring Zachary Levi and Asher Angel as the titled character, was first released in 2019. Back then, the hype for Shazam was at an all-time high. Although the film only managed to garner $366.1 million at the box office, public opinion painted a very different story. Both critics and fans absolutely loved the original, and it is easy to understand why. Shazam does have a long-standing history within the world of DC Comics. With his legendary battles against Black Adam and crossover stories with Superman, Shazam just feels like a natural fit. When former leadership built the DCU, many rooted for the superhero to eventually become a full member of the DCU. As Shazam: Fury of the Gods continues to stumble, the future of this superhero is very much uncertain. With so much hype around the first movie, we need to take a look at exactly what went wrong with the second. First of all, we do need to take a look at the numbers. Shazam: Fury of the Gods had an opening of $30 million. While this does signal that they are likely to bring in a profit, it is still lower than many would have expected. The movie alone cost $125 million to make. Usually, you need to triple the production cost in order to factor for advertising and marketing as well. This means that Shazam needs to make at least $400 million to show any type of profit. Unfortunately, it does not seem likely that they will ever reach that milestone. Once again, the far better received first Shazam in 2019 brought in $366.1 million. While this is still an impressive number, it pales in comparison to other superhero titles. Within the same universe, Black Adam also failed to impress movie watchers. While the audience reception to Black Adam was much better, ultimately they only managed to garner $393 million at box offices. If you take into consideration that the movie cost $200 million to make, it is likely that they barely made any money. This does lead one to a logical conclusion. Maybe the Shazam universe is just not that popular. Although fans that watch the movies seem to enjoy them, they just do not appeal to a broader audience. Once again, when we look at Shazam: Fury of the Gods, there are a few things that we need to take into consideration. Currently, on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie is sitting at a reviewer score of 54%. On Metacritic, it is on an even lower 48%. However, these scores are not as clear-cut as you might think. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, you will see that even though the critic score is low, the audience score is at 85%. This does mean that movie watchers are enjoying the film. Based on the public discourse that I have seen, most people seem to agree. Overall, the first movie was better, but this one is still enjoyable. It is lighthearted, funny, and overall just a good time in theaters. Then on the opposite spectrum, you also have those who did not enjoy the film that much. The general consensus is that lighting does not strike twice. Some feel like Shazam is fighting for screen time in his own movie. This movie does have a leading cast that is quite big. However, this is not always such a bad thing. One thing that is interesting is the massive gap between public opinion and that of professional critics. Ultimately, it is important to remember that this film is one of DC's more light-hearted projects. While many superheroes within the DCU take a much darker approach, Shazam has always been the comedy relief. Fury of the Gods is no exception to that rule. If you are expecting Dark Knight or Man of Steel, you will likely be disappointed. Although it did look at one point that the stars will align for Shazam to cross over into the main Justice League story, that will no longer happen. With James Gunn now in charge, the DC Cinematic Universe will receive a reboot. This means most of the former cast have received their walking papers. The upcoming Flash movie, starring Ezra Miller, will ensure that the universe as we know it will look vastly different come 2025. Out of the former Snyderverse, only 2 franchises will survive. Phoenix will continue as the Joker and Robert Pattinson will return as the Batman. It is worth pointing out that neither of these films will have any connection to the new DC slate under James Gunn. The current leadership made it clear that they are looking to create a singular universe. Gunn previously stated that the DC universe was too isolated. In the past, DC was quick to hand out IPs to everyone. As a result, you now have too many movies that do not connect with one another. James Gunn obviously comes from a universe where every single movie is connected. It is understandable why he would want to do the same for DC films. It should be pointed out though that DC does not have to follow the Marvel script. With James Gunn now firmly in charge of DC, there are many unanswered questions. One of those questions pertains to the future of the Snyderverse. While most, including myself, believe that the Snyderverse was officially dead, that does not seem to be the case. Rumors have been making the rounds for months now that Netflix was interested in taking over the current Snyderverse. While this is nothing but a baseless rumor, Zack Snyder is still teasing the continuation of his creation. Zack Snyder on his official Twitter account released a 14-second video of Darkseid. In Hit, he teased an announcement that will be coming on the 28th of April. While many are hoping that this announcement will be about the continuation of the Snyderverse, in my opinion, that is very unlikely. I cannot imagine a universe where James Gunn and DC would allow that to happen. It is very simple. If DC wanted the Snyderverse to continue, they would have hired Zack Snyder as the CEO of DC. Instead, they hired James Gunn. This means that WB obviously wants something different. Why would they now allow the Snyderverse to continue after announcing the James Gunn slate? Ultimately, only time will tell exactly what they have planned. Is there a slim possibility that the Snyderverse can continue? Yes. However, I fear that many will be disappointed comes the 28th of April. In all likelihood, this announcement will be about a comic book or cartoon. Changes of another DC movie with Zack Snyder and the old cast are basically none. Logically, it would make no sense. James Gunn has also not commented on any of this, which means it probably does not have anything to do with DC. If it did, the CEO would be promoting it. Or maybe they are just saving the excitement for later. Once again, only time will tell.